But almost. Thank you for the introduction. And I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting. And as Sheila just pointed out, Dennis, we appreciate the fact that in view of all the damage that happened in Florida during the past few weeks, 2 hurricanes in a row and power outages and so forth, appreciate that you made yourself available. And you, of course, you're a member of our organization for a long time. You were a presenter when we met in person at the library many years ago, and you're still with us, and you still apparently are extremely popular. And my hat off to you that for being, well, so prolific, so proficient also, and so knowledgeable. And to you, for us, you have become a real asset. We depend upon you, and you have a yearly spot in our organization. Our audience looks forward to your suggestions, your advice. That you share your experience with us has been extremely helpful. We're very grateful for that. And with that, I like to pass it on to Mike for the announcements. And just one question, Mike, if you intend to talk about the subscription membership, I may have to add something to it. If not, we can be mute on that subject. Thank you.
Mike, you're muted.
I didn't notice that happen. Sorry. I wasn't going to mention that until the end of the meeting, Eckhart, so no worries at all. Please allow me to share my screen. Those of you who have already opened Dennis's notes for today will understand why I say I'm going to keep this very brief. And thank you, Dennis, for the incredible amount of work that you've put into the notes. It's a book, and we're very grateful. So really, just a couple of announcements before we pass the meeting over to Dennis. First of all, the usual thing about if you have any questions or comments about today's meeting, there is a thread already in existence. It's pinned to the top of the stack, so it's very easy to find if you just go to the message board front page. It's called "Do you have any burning security questions?" So if you want to place any questions or comments after today's meeting, please use that same thread. Thank you very much. UK clocks are on the move this weekend, so this is just a note really for members who are in the UK. So our clocks go back. Florida's clocks don't go back for another week, so that means that next week's NMUG meeting will be at 3:30 p.m. in the UK, not 4:30. So no excuses for arriving an hour late. Thank you. Next week's meeting is with Sheeta. Very excited about this because I'm busy playing with AI myself at the moment. But Sheeta will be working through examples to show you how she uses artificial intelligence to enhance editing in Lightroom and Photoshop. And we really look forward to it. Thank you. And that is me done. And I would just like to pass the meeting now to Sheeta, just to talk about questions and pass the meeting to Dan. All yours, Sheeta.
All right, thank you.
Questions about questions.
Questions about questions. If you do have questions, please put them in the chat and we will get to them if we can. We have a lot of questions to go over today. You can send your questions through the chat and I will send them to Dennis and we will post them on the message board after he answers them. So there you are. Dennis, thank you so much. I look forward to this and thank you so much. Dennis is really excuse me, sweetheart. Sorry, but thank you. Dennis, all yours.
Thanks. All right, let's see here. Let's see if I can make this all work. All right, can everybody see that so far?
Yes, we can.
All right, cool. Well, I'd say welcome everybody. Thanks for being here today, and thanks for all the questions. So this isn't my perfect slideshow I like to do for you guys. I always like to try to make it fun. I had some electrical challenges, as you guys hear. Florida gets ding dong with hurricanes, but we got it, it was not close to us, which was good, but the electrical issues we've had since then until this day get to be a pain or a challenge. So hopefully my power doesn't go off while we're giving this lecture, because it's been doing it the last several days for sure. Nonetheless, some of the questions, the answers are wordy. They're more of an explanation as a general, but then I give my points and intuition along as we talk about the slide and at the end, and I take each question individually. So they're broken down in slides and sections, as you see in the handout, so they should be easy to look at. So as we move forwards here, of course, as Sheeta said, it's questions, questions, and questions, and I hope to have lots of answers for everybody. I ask that everybody keeps an open mind. I don't have all the answers, although I get to play in the field of all this stuff every day. I get a lot of experience, from forensic side of things, or the everyday user side of things, business and home and everything in between. And it's not just the computer technologies, it's everything outside that as well. Audio, video, satellites, security systems. It's all married together, as we all know these days. Plus our appliances all are online these days. So I do have a big background in it. So just keep an open mind, and I don't have all the answers, and feel free to ask questions or let Sheeta know so that I can try to answer them for you. Along the slideshows, we go through it. I'll mention some USA, UK differences, because there have been several questions in the past regarding security. So I want to address those. And honestly, I say this out front, don't believe everything you see, hear, and read on the internet, because, even though Dr. Google seems to have all the answers, they're not always correct, and they tend to lead people into more harm than good. So with that, I can move forwards. All right. So question one came from Hank. I don't know if he's on the Zoom today, but he had a question about feature flags in Safari. He wanted to know if it's something we can fool with, if it's something that, if it, has any important purpose, it's something we should use. Well, feature flags, if you go to the settings tab in Safari, it's the far right tab, says feature flags, and most people don't even know it's there. But Hank found it. So good question. It's more or less, and keep it simple, it is for professional developers and users, and for experimentation for web people, because it's for checking out how a web page shows up, how it acts, whether there's audio, video in the website, whether there's interaction, even AI these days. So everything that's in the website, they get to challenge and test different things, and then they get to report to Apple to let it know if it's going to be what they're doing, if something needs to be fixed in Apple's side, or if something needs to be altered or fixed on the website of things. But it works on things, like I said, animation, JavaScript, media, searchable interfaces. It's pretty cool, but realistically, I've never really played with it. I have web guys I work with, and they toggle things on and off to show me different features and different things while they're trying to get a website up and running, usually for testing purposes. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you want to putz around with those things, and I'll show you a screen coming up that you can click and check on things on and off, I would just say it's intended for developers. So please stay out of the cook's kitchen if you don't know what you're doing and mess up the recipe, because then you might screw up your web browsing experience as you try to surf the web, and things that are supposed to happen may or may not, and you'll get untoward results, and that would not be a good thing. So as I say, please do not touch. But however, if you want to, this gives you an idea of some things the feature flags can do. You can turn animation off, you can turn it on, you can, there's a lot of different features. A lot of this is way over, not just my head, and I'm being honest, and a lot of your heads as well. So I don't want you to get into delve into something that you really don't need to be in. It's one of those things, Apple used to hide the developer tools. Now they actually just show up, and that feature flags at one point was hidden. Now it's just out in the open. So I think if we don't know what we're doing, we can get ourselves into trouble. Hank had a second question. He asking, I think he's referring to apps. So if he's asking if I could download a bad URL or website without knowing it, or does everything that comes to the App Store clean? Well, the truth is not everything that comes to the App Store is clean, even though it goes through Apple's blessings half the time. Whoops, let me back up one. So web downloads aren't just through the Apple Store, they also come from other websites. And as you'll see in the next slide, we'll be talking about the UK, the European Union, especially because they've opened up to force Apple to allow apps to come from other stores other than the Apple Store. So because of that, there's issues where that could pertain to safety and security, whether the app's safe or clean to use, or whether it's not. Apple does a very good job at it, but things do slip through. However, I can tell you when things are out there or someone gets an app, Apple may release it. It may be out for a couple weeks, might be a month. And if there's something funny, you'll see Apple kind of pull it back off the market. MacRumors.com usually talks about some of the apps that come out. Example recently was some of the gaming apps that are trying to emulate the old video games like Atari and Commodore 64, all the things we grew up with as kids. When we had them, well, the emulators are trying to find ways around it, and they're getting into trouble. So just as they come out, they actually get pulled back off the market for copyright infringements and things. So it's just what happens. Web downloads. What happens sometimes, there's a lot of apps are out there, and these days, you guys all know, we got to pay for everything, right? Everything's a pay to play app. No more perpetual licenses like they used to be, pay once and have it for a couple years. Well, because of that, there are websites out there like Softonic and a few others that are more torrent-based websites. And what that means is the software that's on there might say, example, like Adobe Photoshop, or it might say Lightroom. It might have different apps that people use every day. The problem with that is they are usually hacked or cracked apps that might be full size where you can use it, but they're coming from not Adobe's official site or Apple's official site. And then when you download these files, because people don't want to pay for them, when you install it, whatever is contained inside that app can also harm the computer. So, and that's how you can get an infection in your computer, whether it's Mac or Windows. I mean, that's because you've totally bypassed all the security at that point, and you've played in an area like the dark web underground, the back alley, and you're buying something, 5-finger discount kind of thing. So it's not a place to be. But for the most part, everything that comes out of the App Store is generally decent. But the EU is going to have a problem because the stores aren't going to be as pleased. And Apple, as you guys know, for years, the security is impeccable. It's been for a long time. And that's what they pride themselves on. The problem is everybody wants Apple to open up doors and be fair. Well, we all use our devices every day. Our Macs just work. Our phones just work. Our iPads just work. They just work. I mean, we all have glitches now and then, but our equipment really, for the most part, just works. We pay a premium for it, no doubt, but the stuff just works. Well, now, if you guys remember when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone way back when, he mentioned it'd be the death of Adobe Flash. Well, Adobe Flash, the reason why he said that was Adobe Flash, in order to operate, it operates in the engine room, gets in the underpinnings of the system. So most, at the time, back then, most crashes on an Apple or Windows computer was due to usually Adobe Flash. So Steve Jobs said, nope, they're going to be, everything that operates on these phones and going forward are going to be above the engine room. And well, that's great. So Adobe Flash kind of went away. You don't need it. And of course, it's no loss at this point with other things out there. But with that said, now you're going to have these apps that are coming through alternative stores outside the Apple ecosystem, or even Google, because they're going after Google just as much. So now these apps aren't going to have the safeguards built in. They're not going to have the blessings, and they may contain some bad code or something that can definitely harm our device. And what ends up at the end of the day is we end up blaming Apple or Google for the Android product, and when reality is it's the app we were using. So, and that's a hard thing because Apple can't police it because their hands are going to be shackled by the laws through the EU and other countries. So everyone's starting to move that along. So I would just say stick to the Apple Store stuff when you can, or the manufacturer's website. If like Adobe, it's a known site that they've been around, known products, so those you can trust. Other places, I'd stay away from the torrent or freeware sites that offer all the Apple products in one fell swoop, and they're generally not the genuine article. So stay away from those things. Hank had a third question. I guess he's talking about you guys had something about unsubscribing. Yeah, he wanted to know if it was basically for security reasons it avoids confirming your email address that's active, and other security reasons. Well, it's true. The idea is, you don't want to set yourself up for anything further. We got enough crap in the mail as it is, and as much as, especially in the United States right now, the political climate, I can tell you every device I have, including my TV set, gets more crap on it every day, and I wish I can make it go away. And yes, you can opt out or unsubscribe. The problem is the things that we're getting coming in from so many different spots and organizations and entities that there's no way to know if they're legit or not, or just a robot sending things out. Well, so it's always use caution on subscribing. but it's also phishing attempts for people to try to collect information from you and lure you to give away your information when you click on these sites. So I would say don't unsubscribe because